10 Minutes with Wild Wayne Cartwright. Now today I'm talking about how football coaching just isn't about football anymore. Now, some may say, what do you mean by that? Well, in this day and age of NIL, transfer portal, fan behavior, fan expectations, administrations, you got all these different factors that makes being a college football head coach a lot tougher than what it used to be. All right. Now, where I'm going to start with is something that just happened upon yesterday, right? Where the former now Boston College head coach, Jeff Hafley, he decided to take the defensive coordinator job in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers. Now, Boston College, ACC, Power 5, kind of middle of the road, but it's an ACC job, and it's a pretty good job, I'd say. But one thing that he said that was very significant, now there were sources that reported this to ESPN. He said that he wants to go coach football in a league that is all about football. College coaching has become fundraising, NIL, and recruiting your own team and transfers. There's no time to coach football anymore. Now, there is so much to unpack in this statement here. Now, wanting to go coach football in a league that's all about football, well, that's definitely the NFL. Because when you're in the NFL, you know, the players, they're already compensated. You have guys that are competing for championships, and if you have guys that aren't competing for a championship, they're competing to stay in the league. But it's about football. You get to coach. You get to talk about fundamentals. You get to do things like get on the whiteboard. You get to do those type of things because football is a 24/7 job in the NFL. Well, college coaching, yeah, fundraising. People are looking for bigger facilities. They're looking for better uniforms. They're looking for different things in different ways to be able to fund their programs in different ways. Now, if your administration isn't on board with meeting your vision or matching your vision financially, then oftentimes you as the head coach, you and your staff have to find a way to go and get it. Now, NIL is such a big problem in the NCAA right now. Why? Because it's become like the Wild Wild West. There's not very many regulations and restrictions because it's now gotten to the point where teams are using NIL as a camouflage to just pay a guy or a girl to come to your program. And they're using it as an illegal recruiting tool, but saying that it's name, image, and likeness. And then also when we talk about transfers, there's just this point now where a lot of coaches, they're now relying upon the portal so much because there's so much pressure to win. And with the pressure to win, it's harder to keep your job. And to try to keep your job, to win immediately, you don't necessarily have time to go and recruit new guys from high school. Yes, there are some 5 stars and 4 stars that are ready to play now. But a lot of these 5 stars and 4 stars, you still have to invest time to teach them how to play the game. And that's time that these coaches just don't have in today's day and age. And so when you have to pull in transfers, a lot of times with transfers, you have to recruit your own roster because the second you get a guy that's very good, there's a possibility that another team with more money can come and scoop them up. Now, we see this in the case of Jeff Hafley. We also saw this with Coach Willie Simmons and also with Coach Maurice Linguis, formerly of Buffalo on the left, and also Kane Womack, formerly of South Alabama on the right. Now, Coach Willie Simmons, as we know, he left to go to Duke from being the head coach at FAMU to be the running back coach at Duke. Maurice Linguis was the head coach of Buffalo, and he left to be a defensive coach at Alabama, where Kane Womack on the right is now going to be the defensive coordinator at Alabama. Now, for some of these sitting head coaches, a lot of times the opportunity to step back and go to another place where you can make more money to do less work might be worth it. These gentlemen, and I might even also add Matt Ince, who used to be the head coach of North Dakota State, who's now a defensive position coach at USC, these guys are making more money to do less work. Now, they may still be involved in recruiting, but these guys get to actually coach a position, coach football, do the foundational work that made them become the people that they are. Now, we know that we've seen people like Nick Saban retire, and something that Desmond Howard recently said on the Pivot podcast, he said the present state of college football is starting to wear on a lot of these OGs. You know, it's not just Nick Saban who retired. It's a lot of these guys who've been in the league or been out here for so long coaching that they just can't keep up anymore with today's landscape. College football head coaching is now a 365-day-a-year job. It used to be you coached during the season, you had your time of recruiting, then you had a down period. And then you would just say, all right, we get back in the spring, and then we take some downtime, and then we come back at the end of the summer and we get ourselves ready to roll again. Now it's a 365-day job because you've got all these different demands on your schedule. You've got all these different things that you have to try to do to stay competitive. And one thing about us as fans, we can have some very unrealistic expectations that puts things into perspective for a college football coach to where it drives them over the edge. The first thing that happens when you lose a game, the criticism starts coming out. And also, you don't have to be on social media to not even see it. You can see it just from people telling you about it in your family or some of your friends or even some of your coaches. All right? Some of them, they stand up at the podium during a press conference. You've got press asking you these questions. How come you guys aren't winning? That's pressure. That's stress. It doesn't necessarily lend you to talk about the fundamentals anymore. It doesn't lend you to talk about the positions anymore. You could say like, hey, you were a quarterback when you played and you know about quarterbacking, but you don't really necessarily have all the time to spend about dealing with the quarterback, talking about pressure, talking about how to throw it, how to throw a fade, how to throw this, how to do this, how to read defenses. A lot of these things can tend to go by the wayside. And I'll also even add something that Tom Brady said about 2 months ago, and people wanted to kill him for it. But now people are starting to understand. He said today's NFL isn't today's NFL the way that it used to be. And the way he said it was, he said players are not coming in as developed as they used to. Players are not also coming in as hungry as they used to be. Because you're seeing in today's day and age that players, they're just being pushed through the system. Sometimes, you know, they can just live off their talent. And they're not being developed because a lot of times these coaches just don't have the time to spend with them like they used to. They need you to get it today, because if you don't get it today, you'll be having another head coach tomorrow. But let me finish this with our fan behavior, okay? A lot of times when we look at ourselves, we say, well, we're not winning like somebody else is. We're not winning like our rivals are. We're not having the facilities like our rivals have. You know, a lot of times we want to put this on administration and we want to just put undue and unfair pressure on our head coaches. Now, I know that if you really want to just be a head coach, you understand what comes along with this game. You know that you have to manage NIL, you have to manage attitudes, you have to manage parents, you have to manage family. You have to understand that. But sometimes it just doesn't pay to deal with this type of stuff. And so when we talk about growing in today's day and age, sometimes when we just say you just need to get over it and adjust, that's easier said than done. Because adjustments to an adjusting market that never seems to stop adjusting can be hard to adjust to. But one thing that will remain, football will continue to go on. The rules will change, the faces will change, the names will change, but the game itself will continue to go on. How we choose to approach it, that's always the question. And how long will our coaches deal with a lot of these things that they have to face? Who knows? But one thing we know, football coaching just ain't about football no more. I'm Wild Wayne Cartwright. I'll see you next time.